Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, January 7th, and you're listening to episode 139 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. I know last year was technically the New Year's show, but I'm going to wish everybody a happy New Year's again anyways. Welcome to 2018. Now we make our march towards the 6th anniversary of Planetside 2. Very, very exciting times. As for me, I'm up here in Massachusetts, otherwise known as the other Alaska currently. It is absolutely freezing out here these past few days. I'm sure a lot of you saw on Twitter. I got absolutely annihilated by the most recent storm, Bombo Genesis, or Bomb Cyclone, or whatever the hell it was. Thankfully, we didn't lose any power, but I am sitting somewhere between 14 and 16 inches of snow outside right now. It sucks. It's extremely cold. I've been up on my roof once already, breaking ice off so that I don't get ice dams. If you're not a homeowner, water is your number one enemy when you are eventually a homeowner. And the biggest thing is when water melting off of your roof decides to find its way through every nook and cranny in your roof or siding or anything, and then seep anywhere else it wants to go and ultimately form what they call ice dams. So it's really imperative to clean the snow off of your roof and also any ice. I was out there on Friday evening breaking ice off of my roof. I've got my roof's kind of sloped, and it has two windows that kind of dormer-like windows that kind of pop out. And on either sides of that, I get huge formations of ice. And if I don't get up there and clear it away, it goes right underneath my shingles and leaks into the ceiling of my living room and my dining room. So, like I said, I was out there last Friday in, I believe it was 4 degrees out last Friday, up on a ladder on top of my roof, smashing ice with a rubber mallet. My arms still hurt from being up there, and the sucky part is that on some sides you have to use your right hand, and on other sides you have to use your left hand, and my right arm is much stronger than my left arm, and trying to hit huge formations of ice with your left hand, if you're right-handed, it's not as easy as it sounds. Certainly no fun whatsoever. I would much rather have been indoors playing Planetside 2, but like I said, we never lost power. That's really the biggest blessing, I guess, that I can say as part of this storm. A few years back, I lost power, and we lost power for like 4 days. Had to evacuate into a shelter at one point because couldn't keep the house warm or anything like that. So very happy that that did not happen this year, and fingers crossed it never happens again. And anybody else out there who has to deal with going into a shelter, it absolutely sucks. But again, happy that none of that happened. I can deal with getting a ladder out and trudging my way through, over a foot of snow in my yard to try and get a ladder up and get onto the roof and stuff like that. I can deal with that because I've been living in New England my entire life. So I've kind of spent more time dealing with snow because in addition to, breaking ice off my roof, my snowblower decided to throw the cable that actually makes it go broke while I was in the middle of snow blowing my driveway. And while the auger still worked and the engine still worked and everything like that, it still threw snow, I had to push the thing manually, and I think it probably weighs at least 300 pounds. It's a freaking beast of a snowblower. And my snowblower repair guy is so backed up with repairs that I don't know when he's going to get in touch with me to get this thing repaired, hopefully before the next snow. Otherwise, I'm going to have to figure out how to repair it myself. But let me tell you, when the snowplow, for those of you who don't live in a climate that produces snow like all of you over at Daybreak Games and everybody who lives in Florida and stuff like that, or at least the southern part of Florida that never sees snow, but you California folks that never get snow, Texas folks that rarely see snow, when the snowplow comes and deposits snow that is taller than you at the end of your driveway, and then it freezes to a block of ice before you can even get out there and clear it, that is the definition of suck during winter. So I hope none of you ever have to experience that, because that's what I got to experience this past week. Like I said, snowplows came by and they did a great job clearing the road. I can't fault them for that, but they definitely pile it right up in front of your driveway and you are fucked no matter what you do. And especially in my case, my snowblower, broke that cable before I even got to the end of my driveway. So the suckitude was certainly much, much higher at that particular point. But I'm sure everyone is sick and tired of listening to me complain about the snow already this week. So what is actually going to be in store for this week's show? Well, we got a couple quick hot fixes, a PC one and a PS4 one to talk about. After that, I want to talk about why we don't have a roadmap for 2018, as well as some stuff that Wrel tweeted today about what we can potentially see for the upcoming weeks. And then finally, I want to talk about a post where one of the Reddit users made a PowerPoint, or I guess a Google Sheets presentation about making construction more fun to fight at. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So yeah, first up, January 4th, PC Hotfix. This dropped right in the middle of the snowstorm by me, so I did not even know that this hotfix came out until I sat down to start doing show notes. I have not logged into the game in a few days because, like I said, dealing with household shit has kind of taken up all of my time. But what did we get in this particular PC hotfix? There were some tank mine adjustments. The instant action, which is actually joint combat, shouldn't take you into cutoff territory any longer. The vehicle queue timer issue, where you'd see like 18, 20, 40, 50 people in front of you in line at a terminal, should no longer happen. I think what was happening is that everybody in front of a terminal everywhere on the continent was being in that line, and that's probably why we were seeing that particular bug. That has been fixed. They put a fix for alert timers that weren't appearing for some clients. They also added the NS deep freeze, so if you didn't get a chance to get that, you better hurry up, because if you're listening to this show on Monday, actually everything's going away Tuesday the 9th, last I saw. So if you have not completed your Jolly title or your holiday directives or whatever, you have until the 9th to get that done. So again, if you have been looking for the deep freeze, you can get in and get the deep freeze pistol now while you can. Also, the Sky Shield should no longer turn itself off and then back on. They fixed it again, so the glaive now destroys the Sky Shield in 3 direct hits. The Cordium tap that had been released incorrectly has been removed. C4 should once again show the correct icon on the death screen. That one was confusing me because it was showing a grenade icon instead of the C4 icon. The two biggest things in this particular hotfix, Ceres Hydroponics and the D point at the crown, should now be capturable once again. I know a lot of people were complaining about this, and we seem to get a new post on either Reddit or the forums every other day where someone felt that they had discovered for the first time that you couldn't cap Ceres Hydroponics. They've been working on that particular fix for a while now, so good to see that finally come in. Some of the faction-specific gold pistol variants should no longer use outdated pistol stats. They fixed some of the capture point UI padlocks, so they should be more responsive to the capturable state of the region. And what that is, a lot of times you'd go to a point and it'd show a lock on it, but you'd still be able to capture it. So that has been fixed. And they fixed the other real big thing that people were complaining about, the Phoenix, which should no longer auto reload while in flight or show the incorrect screen overlay. I know this was a big complaint for a lot of non-New Conglomerate players. Phoenix reloading in flight kind of makes it a little bit OP. I know a lot of TR and VS players were upset because it seemed like Sunderers were being taken out a lot quicker by groups of people with Phoenixes in spawn rooms. So good to see that is fixed. Also, the orbital strike chassis should no longer be practically indestructible in normal situations. And finally, you can now remove the HSNV optic from the Jackhammer AE. You pretty much, if you put that on, you weren't able to take that off. That was a pretty annoying bug. Again, not a lot of things. This is just kind of a quick cleanup after the last game update hit the PC that introduced a lot of these random and various little bugs. So again, good to see that all these particular things did get fixed while I was busy shoveling snow. Next, we also had a January 4th PlayStation 4 hotfix, and this dropped in both the EU and the US. I think the biggest thing, and a lot of these things are stuff that I went over not too long ago on the PC side, back before Christmas. These all came to the PC side, and they're now making their way to the PS4. The first is the Canis had its unstable ammunition headshot multiplier reduced. It had its projectile collision size scaled back. And basically this is because everyone knows the Canis was kind of overpowered in its headshot multiplier and projectile collision when using that unstable ammunition. So no longer do PlayStation 4 folks have the better, is better the right word? I think the overpowered version of the Canis. So now you are on the same playing ground as us on the PC. And as always, they're going to keep reviewing the state of all three SMGs because potentially we could see some other changes with either the Jackal or the Gladius as well. Next, we had the same vehicle adjustments, and the big one was vehicle stealth. The stealth defensive certification no longer reduces the range engagement radar can detect. The stealth defensive certification will reduce the range that engagement radar can detect the vehicle by 100, 200, 300, or 400 meters. The only difference is the Valkyrie, which got an additional 50 meters to each of those ranges. And as we discussed last time, reducing the range of stealth's effectiveness versus this is intended to help promote target tracking while engaged, but still allowing ambush playstyles to remain effective. The Liberator and Galaxy got some reduced on-fire vertical thrust penalty, and that's really, again, just to make sure you have a better chance of landing the vehicle after it's caught on fire. The Banshee for the Mosquito had a direct damage nerf, and really it's because if you had extended magazines on the Banshee that you could kill another ESF with one clip, and they don't want that to happen. The Dalton's damage on the Liberator was reduced a little bit because, again, they felt that it was a little too juiced is the term they used against ground vehicles. So what this does is it bumps up the survivabilities of main battle tanks and lightnings. Harassers stay the same. Sunderers and Ants got a change to their resistance type, and this is the air-to-ground resistance. And what this does is keeps the Dalton at the range that it was before we made any changes to the Dalton itself. ESF's also got some resistance changes, again, also air-to-ground. And what it does is it's compensating for the damage reduction on the Liberator. And what it will do is move the ESF a bit further on the burning state when getting hit once by a Liberator round. Valkyrie also got some air-to-ground resistance changes. What it's basically doing is changing the Dalton from 2 shots to kill to 2 shots to crit and 3 to kill. Zephyr goes from 4 to kill to 5 shots to crit and 6 to kill, and Hornets goes from 4 shots to kill to 5 to crit and 6 to kill. They also got some increased resistances against aircraft nose guns, and the change is intended to lengthen the time to kill Valkyries with nose guns alone, and really just to provide a little bit more survivability for Valkyries altogether. Next, the Lightnings and main battle tanks got some adjustments, and these adjustments were really made to address the fact that Harasser could survive a little bit longer, as well as also giving armor-piercing rounds a more standout place against other vehicles, because they're finding that everybody's using Hesh as their all-rounder main cannon. So look for more changes in addition to this, but AP stuff certainly on live on the PS4. And this, excuse me, affects the C-75, the AP, the Heat. It also affects the Titan AP on the Vanguard, and it also affects the Supernova FPC on the Mag Rider. The only other change, the Supernova VPC on the Mag Rider, it did have a big blast damage reduction because they were seeing that the Mag Rider with the Supernova VPC had far and away more infantry kills than any other Hesh equivalent, and they think that due to its maneuverability at ranges that would normally keep tanks at bay from infantry, they're going to need to remove its one-shot splash kill within 1 meter to kind of compensate for that. And I know a lot of PC players are still upset about the Supernova VPC changes, so PS4 folks, now you get to complain about them as well. Mjolnir also got some changes to it. This is on the Vanguard and the Harasser. It had a direct damage reduction, and really it's because they felt that it was too powerful after they did the last update on it. But it still does have a little bit of its increased damage over the Combined Arms Initiative launch version. Finally, the Halberd on the Harasser and all main battle tanks had a bit of its changes, and really the big thing here is to bring back its one-hit kill for body shots against non-flak armored infantry targets with 1,100 hit points or less, as well as one-shot capabilities against non-composite armored flash ATVs. And finally, one quick bug fix is that rocklet rifle ammo variant should now be equipable on PS4. So again, this was a lot of the stuff I went over on the show for PC before Christmas. I'm not going to bore you all to death by going over it a second time, but again, January 4th, PS4 hotfix. I guess the biggest things here is Canis is now had its teeth removed a bit. And the vehicle adjustments that we saw, stealth is a big one. I'll be curious what PS4 folks think of the Valkyrie now that it's had some changes. Also, Liberator pilots, as always. But again, that's the January 4th PS4 hotfix in a nutshell. With that, let's move on to our third topic this week. And the third topic is about a roadmap for 2018. There was a Reddit post by Oldmaster80 a few days ago where he was talking about in 2017, we had sort of a roadmap of what was going on. You know, Combined Arms Initiative was going to be the big thing for 2017. And he's wondering, now what about 2018? They know, obviously, Cold Tier is going to replace VR Room. We're going to get more Doku weapons, but he's wondering what else can we expect for 2018. And in that vein, why don't we have a roadmap for 2018 overall? And I read through the whole post and a lot of pros and cons from all the people who read it and responded to it on Reddit. And I, for one, am against the devs releasing a roadmap for 2018. I know in the past they've had roadmaps, and for the most part, when there's a roadmap out there, inevitably something on that roadmap is not going to make it to the game. And the reason it's not going to make it to the game is because the devs decided, for one reason or another, based on their programming it, based on their testing it, based on feedback from other people, that they're not going to put it into the game. And it makes some players extremely upset when something like that happens. So I am in favor of them not doing a particular roadmap. Sorry, Old Master 80, if you listen to this week's show. I disagree with you on this particular point, because I think people get a lot more butthurt when they see a roadmap with stuff that they want to implement throughout the entire year, and then for one reason or another, a whole bunch of those things fall off and are never created. And, I think a prime example of that is the medic forward spawn. We got tons of hype on it. It's coming. Your medics are going to be able to do this. You're going to have something that you can place. People are going to be able to respawn on it. There was tons of excitement about it. And then for one reason or another, which we didn't really hear too much about, it got scrapped completely by the devs. And I'm afraid that if they put together a long roadmap of 2018, that there will be many things like the medic forward spawn on it that will not make it into the game itself. Now, we've got a good idea about what's coming in the first half of the year, or first quarter of the year. I mean, let's just lump it into first quarter, January, February, March. I think we can expect to see leadership changes. We can expect to see new player experience changes. We can expect to see outfit changes. These are all things that Nick talked about on my Christmas episode. Things that they are working on and that we should be able to see January, February timeframe. So I am much more in favor of the developers doing a quarterly mini roadmap, I guess, saying things that we're looking to do in the next couple of months, rather than do some sort of year-long roadmap. And if you think they've not done enough regarding this, first quarter 2018, then I'm just have to respectfully disagree with you there as well, because we had a dev live stream where they talked about some of the stuff that's coming. Nick Silva came on my show and talked about some of the stuff that's coming. Wrel has tweeted about some of the stuff that's coming. I think that they are doing a good job giving us an idea of what we can see within the first quarter of 2018. So again, if you think that that's not enough, I'm sorry, but I'm going to disagree with you on it. And it gives us enough stuff for people to complain about and, like and be excited for. I mean, I follow quite a few people on Twitter who are very vocal about how they dislike Planetside 2, and I read all those posts, and I agree with some of the stuff that they say, and I disagree with other things they say. And again, I think too much of a roadmap would just bring people like that to the forefront and continue to trash the game that I still enjoy playing. So that's my thoughts, particularly on a roadmap in 2018. I do not want one. I don't want the devs to commit any time to it. I think what they've done so far is good enough in my book, keeping us posted on what actually is coming. In fact, Wrel tweeted today about stuff that's coming soon, and he said that new vehicle captural bases for Amrish, Indar, and Esamir, as well as Esamir lattice adjustments, are coming to the PTS likely next week, talking about the week that you're listening to this show. Also, they're planning on having their first live stream of the year towards the end of the month, and that could potentially coincide with the Araxian Loyalty Week, or Araxian Loyalty, which has usually been at the end of January for the past couple of years. So maybe that's going to happen as well. Also, new bases that are going to be open to allow for construction to be built around them. And they're being done with no terrain adjustments whatsoever. Maybe some object cleanup on Amrish, though. Also, Wrel said that some of the bases are placed where players tend to build construction anyway. Others are to help pull players along the lattice or add some flexibility to the lane. And finally, he said a battery of construction tuning changes will likely come along with these bases as well. If not on PTS next week, then at some point before the end of the month. So again, I don't think that they need a full 2018 roadmap when they're willing to drop little nuggets of wisdom like this about what we can expect going forward. Sure, you have to kind of watch Twitter. You kind of got to watch the official forums. You got to watch Reddit. Maybe, heaven forbid, you have to listen to my show each week to kind of get nuggets like this. But again, I don't necessarily think a full roadmap is necessary. And with that, let's move on to our last topic this week. And the fourth and final topic this week is about making construction more fun to fight at. This was based on a Reddit post by Lore Master, who put together, like I said, an entire presentation, a Google presentation, about ways that he would suggest making construction more fun to fight at. He lists some main goals, and the first is to improve construction fights by focusing infantry inside a base rather than having players running around on the outside. He's also looking for some general quality of life changes for both attackers and defenders to make fighting at these bases more fun, and also making it easier for new players to understand how the construction system works. And finally, he's trying to make these changes as easy to implement as possible, only suggesting anything more complex if it's absolutely necessary. And then he takes the time to go through things like the forward station, where that can be placed, also rampart walls, increasing the max number of deployables of them, and making them no longer affected by the structure shield module. He may add some changes about the anti-infantry turrets, specifically and biggest that he doesn't want them to be automated by the AI module anymore, which is one I certainly agree with. I'd much rather have somebody manning these things than be AI. But maybe that they could auto-target max units. He also talks about blast walls, making them invulnerable by the repair module, and also increasing the max number of them to 3. He also talks about skywall shields, making infantry no longer take damage as they pass through it. He also talks about the structure shield module, specifically the vehicle gate shield and Sunder Garage shield, should both be able to block small arms fire. He talks about the repair module, which should have a small no deploy zone between it and the spawn tube. And he also thinks that structures that receive invulnerability should have their health reduced by about 60%. He also thinks that the decay damage rate and making visual adjustments for the repair module are certainly needed. He talked about the Elysium spawn tube and how its no deploy radius against other spawn tubes should be decreased, because he wants to get at least 2 to 3 of these in larger or very large bases. He does also say that their health should be decreased, and also their repair rate should be decreased. Also, their spawn timer should be decreased, and it should be available for reinforcements needed requests by default. He also talks about hives and basically saying that they should just be removed from the game entirely, and he doesn't think that construction would be impacted much by their absence. I completely agree. And maybe create hive build zones between lattice bases as some sort of other option, or make hives create mini lattice links between lattice bases as well as another option. He also has some other miscellaneous changes that he would like added to the game, like making Cordium spawn nodes appearing on the map while you're actually inside an ant, and also maybe making a way for it to get construction objects earlier on. And he really says that construction's hard to get started on because there is a huge cost to enter into that. And perhaps lowering the cert costs for essential objects, allow you to buy them with ISO 4. There's certainly some options that he does put forward. He also comes up with a couple other various different things, like overloading a silo in order to be able to capture a base. All in all, well thought out presentation that he put together, and clearly it's someone who does construction a lot, and their goal is to get more people to play with construction, work with construction. Now, I've said all along that I'm not really a fan of construction. I don't do construction. I don't pull an ant hardly ever. I'm just not into it. It's not something that I do. I don't see it as a great way for the game. I don't know. I'm not a fan of construction. I've never been a fan of construction. And I've never hid the fact that I've never been a fan of construction. But I understand that some people enjoy construction because, as I say, there's no wrong way to play Planetside 2. So the least they could do is work on incorporating some of these things into the game itself. And I think some of the stuff that I just went over that Wrel was tweeting about today kind of take some of the things that Lore Master talked about into account. They're adding some new bases to the game. You're going to be able to build construction on them. We only had one up till now, Icanam Biolab, so we're going to actually see some more of those in game. That's kind of neat. And having some other construction tuning changes. When we talk about those things, we'll talk about Wrel's response to Lore Master's post, and he said, like I said, it was a good presentation. And one of the things that they're looking to change is for skywalls, they're no longer going to set you on fire. Instead, you're going to get EMP'd by them as you come through them. So that's kind of a big change. The blast walls and their invulnerability from repair modules has been removed in their internal environment. But making blast walls invulnerable specifically is an exception that they're certainly considering and think could be worth getting behind. And maybe also with silos, the orbital strike chassis, and the hives as well. Who knows? They do agree that the vehicle gate shield and sunderer gate shield and structure shield module, they agreed with everything that he posted on those. Disagreed with the repair module stuff, though, and in regard to removing hives entirely, Wrel specifically said this is a direction that they're considering moving in. Because hives currently are mainly there to give relevance to the construction system as it relates to continent capture and ensure continents don't turn over too quickly. They're stopgap systems. They're a stopgap for systems that they're hoping to implement later and likely will be removed once they have other elements in place. Such as allowing them to create mini lattice links and the aforementioned new vehicle capture bases and things like that. So, again, good job, Lore Master, putting this together. Again, I'm not a fan of construction, but I know that there is a group of Planetside players that are interested in construction, and when you put together a nice document like this and give the devs point by point things that they can say, that's a good idea, let's implement that, you're going to get a response like you did from Wrel in this particular thing. We're going to see hives removed altogether. We're getting more vehicle capturable bases, things like that. So good to see a nicely constructed, well thought out post like this get some good response from the devs and make some changes to the way construction is in the game itself and things that we're going to see popping onto PTS very soon. So again, good job, Lore Master. Anybody else who has ideas about the game should take notes from this and do some of this on your own as well. And with that, though, let's move into housekeeping so we can wrap up this week's show.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
Unfortunately, no emails, no voicemails, no nothing coming in this week. I chalk it up again to New Year's, everybody's off doing stuff, playing Planetside 2, and maybe they're all digging out snow like I was. But with that being said, that's going to be it for this week's show. But how can you get in touch with me on the show? As always, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Send me an email, instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, 347-4VM for PS2, or that's 347-486-4772. Follow me on Twitter. The show is at InstActPodcast, and I'm at The Derringer. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.